So today I want to talk about what I believe is one of RPG Maker's most underutilized features. Um, and the only reason I say that is because I spent 15 years working on one game, and I think I maybe used this feature once. Um, and that's because I think it can be a little bit complicated if you don't understand it. Um, and even if you do understand it, it's easy to replicate the results without using this feature, just through loops and conditional branches. Um, and I'm talking about labels. And I want to, so this here, label, jump to label. This is, I'm using RPG Maker VX. I'm pretty sure they've kept this feature in later iterations of RPG Maker. I'm not too sure, honestly. Um, but I want to demonstrate how labels work and just really explain kind of how powerful they can be. And they can really help with cleaning up your code. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give a bit of an example by creating an NPC that, let's just see here, let's make him a generic soldier. And what I'm going to have this character do is I'm going to have him offer to teach one of your party members one of 3 skills that they have available to them. And this isn't going to be in the final release. I'm just using this as a demonstration. Now, the catch with this is that you can only have 3 out of your 4 party members with you at a given time, but I want to make sure that the option to select a party member that isn't available isn't in the list. So I'm going to show you the clunky and awkward and bulky way of doing this, and then I will show you the way that's much cleaner that uses labels. So to start, let's just have this guy say, hey, do you want me to teach you a skill? And then I'll open up a choice, yes or no. If you say yes, then he'll say, who should I teach? And this is where labels will really come in handy. Now, I am using a variable, variable1 called member, that determines who you have in your party, or more accurately, who's missing. So I'm going to do a conditional branch. I'm going to say if member is equal to 1, that means Lionel is missing, which means you can teach either Mel, Brutus, or Damien. And when canceling, I'm just going to branch, and that will, yeah. And then if member is equal to 2, that means Mel is missing, so it'll be Lionel, Brutus, and Damien. When member is equal to 3, that means you can teach Lionel, Mel, or Damien. And when member is equal to 4, I actually don't need the conditional branch for that, because it's the only other option. When member is equal to 4, it'll be Lionel, Mel, or Brutus. That should be right. Yeah. Now, if I do this the very slow and awkward way, I actually need to put this at the top of the show choice for each of them. There we go. I'll just kind of show you what this will be like. So let's say Mel can learn, let's see, what skill should she learn? And let's just kind of bring up her list of skills here. So it'd be Mel, and what are the skills she has? Under the, yeah, so she's got these ones here. Let's say augmented is 1. I'm just gonna do this to activated is another, and rapid fire is another. So those are the 3 we'll be using. Okay, show choices. 3 choices. Just branch. There we go. Choice 1 is going to be augmented. 2 is activated, and 3 is rapid fire. Again, this is really the kind of clunky, awkward way. We'll let's see, when a selection is made, we'll play a sound effect, or actually no, we'll play an animation on the player. It doesn't really matter what the animation is, but we'll just do that. Wait 60 frames, teach the skill, and then say, done. Come see me if you want to learn another skill. Obviously, for something like this, if this was actually something we were going to be implementing in the game, we'd have like a switch or a variable, or we'd check to see if the skill is already learned. We're not going into huge detail with it. It doesn't really matter what the functionality is of this script. All I'm doing is showing you the inefficient way of doing it, and then I'm going to show you the much more efficient way of doing this with labels. But we'll do this just to kind of make it make sense. There we go. So if you're teaching Mel, these are the skills that she can learn. Let's go with Brutus. Let's do the same kind of thing. We're just going to copy the whole script, say what skill should he learn. And for this, we're going to teach Brutus one of his skills. What skills can Brutus learn? Brutus is the Berserker. Let's teach him Axeman, Practiced, or Ferocity. So Axeman, Practiced, and Ferocity. There we go. And I just need to change these names. Okay. And actually, I'm going to put a bit of dialogue in the canceled field. So if you say you don't want to learn something, say, no worries, come find me if you change your mind. Done. Okay. And I'll put that in the cancel tree of all these. There we go. And now we're going to do the same thing for Damien. What skill should he learn? Let's go with, let's see, for Damien, he's going to learn one of his hunter skills. We'll go with Knife Man, Precision, and Trap and Lure. Knife Man, Precision, Trap and Lure. Change the names of the skills. Knife Man, Precision, Trap, and Lure. Good, and I think that's, yep, that's good. Okay. And so that's basically, now here's the thing. This works, but it's also very inefficient because keep in mind, we've only gone through the conditions of if Lionel is missing from the party. The slow way of doing this would be, so that anytime you select Mel, well, let's see. If members equal to 2, Mel's not in the party, but if members equal to 3, she is. So that means I'd have to copy this whole block of code into this branch here, and then again down here. And I have the same code 3 times, just for if Mel's in the party. That's the bad way of doing it. It works, it's perfectly fine, but when you do that for every party member, your code gets really bloated, and there's a much better way of doing it. And actually a way that allows you to do this process as many times as you want without ever leaving the branch, and you never need to actually have a loop. So I'm going to show you how to do this same thing with labels, and I will show you how that looks. So we're just going to get rid of all the code I just copied and pasted, and instead what we're going to do, we're going to go to the, let's start at the top here. Now, okay, so we're going to start the same way. Hey, do you want me to teach you a skill? Show choice yes or no. When yes, I'm going to create a label, and I'm going to call it start. Now, I'm going to go through the same checks of, you know, what variable is active and what that's set to determine who I can select. But within the actual branch itself, I'm going to have a bit of a different set of code. Now, at the end of this entire branch, I'm going to create another label. I'm going to create 4 labels, actually. I'm going to call it Lionel, Mel, Brutus, Damien. And then I'm going to create one more label, and I'm going to call it Exit. Now, what's going to happen is under Mel, under the label where it says Mel, I'm going to paste the code we put in the first time. What skill should she learn? Augmented, activated, rapid fire, and then that's all the processing there. I'm actually going to get rid of the line that says cancel, and I'm going to explain kind of how this all works once I've got this all put in place. But I'm going to take out the code that I put in for Brutus there and put it under the label that says Brutus. And then under Damien, I'm going to go find his code that we put together and do the same thing. Put his under Damien, and we are going to need to put together some code for Lionel, so let's do that now. Let's just copy Brutus's code, put it under the Lionel label, and give him some skills to choose from. So we're going to teach Lionel a skill. Let's teach him, he's got a couple of skills, Swordsman, Bludgeoner, or Potency. We'll go with those. Swordsman, Bludgeoner, Potency. And I just need to change these here. Swordsman, Bludgeoner, Potency. Done. Okay. So now we've got all the code that actually teaches someone the skill and selects what skill they learn under labels. And I'm going to show you how to trigger these. But before we do that, under label exit, we're going to add a bit of code that says, no worries, come find me if you change your mind. Main mind, there we go. And then under all the cancel options, I'm going to insert this here, jump to label. And we're going to enter label name exit. So right here, what we've done is we've set up a label that says exit. And if you cancel, you jump to that label. What that does is if you get to this point in the event command, it will jump straight to here and then run the code from that point forward. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it up here, I'm going to put it up here, I'm going to put it up here. So now, if at any point we get to this point, it will jump to here and run the code from that point forward. Which means, if I didn't have that, if I got to this point in the code, it would just jump down to the next line of code, which is here, and then it would start running through Mel's choices. Well, that's not what we want. We want to make sure that we can actually jump back and forth. So now we have our conditional branch that determines who's in our party and the choices that show the party members that are currently available. But it doesn't actually do anything yet. What we need to do now is under each of these sections, we have the code jump to the label for the given party member. So we'll say Brutus. Now it's very important that you have the labels properly named. Like if I did that with Brutus with 2 S's, that's not going to work because there is no label with Brutus 2 S's. It's just Brutus. I have to make sure that the label names match. Under Lionel, we'll say Lionel, 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 and then the last one is Damien. Yeah. Damien, Damien, Damien. There. Now what we've done, as soon as we trigger this event, it'll go to this. If he says, if we say, yes, we want him to teach his skill, it will run the code as normally. It will, determine which member is missing from our party, and then it will show the choices of the members that we have available. And if we choose one of those members, instead of running through the rest of the code, it will take that, jump straight to the label that we need, and then run the code from there. Now here's the thing. If it gets to the end of this text box here, it's going to continue and go down to the next one, which is why we also, at the end of each of these sections, when we're done with this, we want to do one of two things: either exit the event processing or jump back up to here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do both. We're going to say, okay, in each of these sections where it says where we actually teach the skill, we're going to say, hey, instead of done, come see me if you want to learn another skill, we're going to say done, would you like me to teach another skill? And then we'll show a choice that says yes or no. If no, then we'll say, all right, come see me if you want to learn another skill. And then under no, we're going to hit exit event processing. And then it won't go down to the next code. It'll just leave that event altogether. However, if we say, yes, we would like to learn another skill, we're going to jump to label, start, and then without even using a single loop, we have not used the loop function at all. Without using a loop, if we say, yes, we would like to learn another skill, it's going to take that label, jump all the way up to the top where the label start is, and then run through this again, and it's going to, again, check to see who we have, and then say, who do we want to teach? Now all we need to do is take this here. Oh no, oh, what did I do? Oh, I hit home. It's okay. And we're just going to replace this bit of code here. And you can use this functionality for all sorts of stuff. It doesn't have to be used for just this kind of thing. I'll actually show you an example of what I've used labels for when we're done here. But I think this is good. I don't think there's anything else that we need to worry about. So now, instead of copying and pasting this entire chunk of code in every single one of these branches up top here that says Brutus, instead of having those entire chunks of code copied 3 times, instead we do our sorting and our conditional branches and our choices right at the start, and then based on that selection, jump to the label that runs that code once instead of having it 3 times. And now our code is much cleaner and much more condensed. So if we run this and test this, I'm just going to turn on my volume a bit, don't want it to be picked up on the mic. I hope it's not too loud. Okay, so in my account 1, I don't have Lionel in my party. And the reason, and the way the game checks that, is by checking variable number 1, member, is equal to 1. So Lionel is not there. I have Mel, Damien, and Brutus. Additionally, I don't actually have all of their... Okay, so Mel has augmented. She does not have activated or rapid fire. Damien doesn't have trap and lure, precision, or knife man. And Brutus, he has ferocity, but not practiced or axeman. So I can use that to test whether or not this actually works. Ooh, my computer is slow today. Okay, here's our NPC. So we're going to talk to him, and he says, hey, do you want me to teach you a skill? I'm going to say no. Okay, I made a mistake. Let's fix it. So under no, where is no? There it is. Yep, I didn't put anything in there. So when I said no, the game didn't have anything to pick up on, so it just went to the next line of code, which means it was going to try to teach Lionel something, even though he wasn't in our party. So instead, what we're going to do, so our label exit here, jump to label exit, that's what we want it to jump to. I'm kind of glad that I made a mistake, because that shows you what happens when it's done wrong. So under the no section, it's just going to jump to label exit. And let's try that again. Oh, you know what? I can do full screen. Yeah, I can do full screen for this. Should make it a little bit easier to see. I don't think it's going to make my computer run any smoother, though. Nope. Okay, so Lionel is not in our party. And so if I speak to this guy, do you want me to teach you a skill? I'm going to say no. No worries, come find me if you change your mind. So it jumped to that label at the bottom of the script. It skipped all of that by jumping to that label, and that's it. However, I'm going to say, yeah, I do want to learn a skill. So the game is checked to see Lionel is not in our party, so these are our only options. I'm going to teach Brutus a skill. And right there, it has jumped to Brutus's list of skills. Axeman, Practiced, and Frosty. I'll choose Axeman. Done. Would you like me to teach him the skill? I'm going to say no, and he's going to exit the event processing. And if I check Brutus's skills, now he has Axeman learned. So let's do that again with Damien. I'm going to teach a skill to Damien. I would like to learn Knife Man. Done. Would you like to teach another skill? Yes. And I would like to teach Mel a skill. Let's teach her Activated. Done. Would you like to teach another skill? No. All right. And as you can see, Damien now has Knife Man, and Mel has Activated. And just like that, with minimal code, but just by using labels and jumping to those labels within that script, with the clever use of exiting event processing and using a label to actually cancel out of those options, we now have this fully functional guy who will teach us skills. Now, yeah, it's not perfect. I would need to do some checks to see if you already have the skill, maybe add a cost associated to it. And frankly, I'm not even going to keep this guy because I don't want this in my game. I'm just using this as an example. But with very minimal code now, we've created a way to teach skills to any given party member, and all of our nested conditional branches are right at the top with no bloated code inside. All the code that's actually run within each of those branches is done at the very bottom of the script under labels. This is, I would say, one of RPG Maker's least utilized functions, and one that is probably the most useful. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm actually going to get rid of this guy because we don't need him anymore. This guy here, though, this is my blackjack game. And so from here to here is all just rules. The rest is the entire game of blackjack. And it's all done using labels. By using labels, I can basically have one set of code for when you deal the player, when you deal the dealer, when you check the scores, when you display a card or a picture, when you determine the results. If you want to replay it, there's a label to reset it. Even the rules itself. Do you want to play a round of blackjack? If you say yes, no, or rules, well, if you say rules, instead of looping at the end of the rules, it just jumps to the label start, which right up here does the whole thing again. Same thing, if you say no, it jumps to the label exit, which all the way down at the bottom is where it will actually erase any pictures that are on screen. It resets the, anything that's been set up. And then if you actually decide you do want to play, it would jump to the label blackjack, assuming you actually have enough money to afford it, where it then sets up the deck, displays all the pictures, plays some sound effects, sets up the gold selection. If you don't have enough gold, it will just jump to the start of it again. Otherwise, it will start by dealing in the player. Now here's the thing. It jumps to the player deal, The next line of code is the player turn. So from here, it's actually going to jump all the way down to close to the bottom. Here it is, player deal, where it deals the player, and then from there, I actually don't have, unless I have a certain parameter met, it will just run right to the next code where it deals the dealer. So all that is done without any loops, without any, it's done without any loops, it's done without any duplicate code. So that entire game of blackjack is done without, let's go full screen again. That entire game of blackjack is done in the most efficient way I can possibly do, just by making it so that you can have labels. So do you want to play around blackjack? No. Okay. What are the rules? Yeah, go through the rules, blah, 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 blah. Skip all the text. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Yes, I want to play. Let's play for 50 gold. So right there, it jumped to the label that dealt the player, then the dealer, then the player again, and then the dealer again. And now that certain parameters have been set, there's a certain number of pictures on screen. It's determined that everyone's been fully dealt, and now it jumps to the next label where it actually is the player turn, where I determine do I want to hit or stand. I've got 10, I'm going to hit. 14, let's hit again. 18, okay, I'm going to stand. And now it jumps to the label the dealer turn, where he now gets dealt a card. He determines does he want to hit or stand. He's going to hit. He's tied with me, so he's going to stand. Then it jumps to the bottom of that, where it says, do you feel like playing another round? If I say yes, it's going to jump back up to the label where the deck is shuffled and everything is reset. And now I can determine how much I want to play for. So let's play again. I've got 18. I'm just going to stand. He's got 19. He's going to stand, so he wins. And that's where it determines the results. And then again, asks if I want to play another round. I'm going to say yes, and it once again jumps to the label at the top where everything is set up in the first place. And just like that, there we go, dealer bust, and I win. I'm going to say no, I don't want to play another round, and everything is reset. That entire game of blackjack is done without a single loop and without a single line of duplicate code. Everything is done with labels. So it's a very, very powerful tool. Labels, the label and jump to label functions are extremely powerful, and when utilized properly, can be used to create some very complex codes that just make things a lot cleaner and a lot easier to understand. They can be tricky to use, and you do have to make sure that you close things off properly and test things properly, because if you screw it up, then you might end up running some code that you don't want to run. You need to make sure that at the end of a certain label, you have a way to signify when you actually want to jump to that label and when you don't. If I didn't want anyone to jump to this label, I would, put something like exit event processing. So the only way you can get to this label is by actually jumping to it. If you run through the code normally and you accidentally get here somehow, it'll just close the event. Obviously, I don't want to do that. I've got this set up pretty much airtight, so that you won't ever run into something you're not supposed to. So it can be tricky, but it's also a very, very powerful tool. And when utilized properly, can create some really, really cool events with minimal code. So I just wanted to share that. I think it's something that more game devs should be utilizing and understand the purpose of. I haven't really seen a lot of tutorials going into what it does or a really effective explanation. This isn't exactly a tutorial on how to use them. I mean, it kind of is. It's more just a showcase of what they can do. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. So that's all I wanted to talk about for this week's video. If you have a suggestion for something you'd like to see or something you'd like explained, or a mechanic in one of my games that you don't understand that you'd like to know how I did that, or I'm open to suggestions. If you want me to do Let's Plays, whatever it is. I don't really have a plan as to where I want to take the channel, but I'm, for the most part, just using this channel as a way to advertise my own games, honestly, and showcase some of the development process and some of the things that went into the development of this game. Um, and I'm more than happy to explain how certain features work in RPG Maker and how I myself have utilized them in my games to create some pretty cool stuff. So let me know what you want to see. Let me know if this was helpful in any way. Want to get this out there. So hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.